given all the firms have seen, well, the majority of them have seen growth, how'd they do it? And that has also sort of been consistent the last couple of years. Raising billing rates, and that has actually really gone up. And that's something that I will tell you that you tell this to outside consultants, it stumps them. And I can only assume that's mainly because Pennsylvania offers, you know, a real value in terms of the legal representation. I've told this anecdote before, and I'll say it again because I think it still holds true. Years ago, and this is before the recession, I was talking with the general counsel to a large financial institution, and I asked him, "What do you like about the Pennsylvania legal market?" And he's like, "Great lawyers, great price." And I asked him, "What don't you like about it?" And he goes, "Some of them are trying to compete with New York firms now and trying to raise their price." But I think that's probably the key to this, in that, you know, Pennsylvania firms have always been of value compared to some of the other national firms, especially the ones that are located in places like, you know, New York City. Because otherwise, the consultants just keep scratching their heads, like they don't know how you're able to do it. But that is the primary reason for retaining profitability levels. And that 81, as you can see from the slide, that 81.5%, that's significantly higher than what we've seen the last several years. I mean, it's, you know, last year it was 65.4%, and then, you know, 73.9, and I think 73.9. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gina. That may have been the high point prior to this. I think in terms of past surveys. The other, you know, and I think this was number 2 last year. Switching practice focus to higher demand areas. That's another way that firms are maintaining their profitability, increasing their revenue. And as you can see, 29.6% cited this way as the firm's main profitability. That was down a little bit from the last 2 years, when it was 30.8% in 2012 and I think 39% in 2011. Now this is interesting. The third most cited reason was reduced partner compensation, and that was new. That really hasn't registered that high in the past. It hasn't been that high, and this year it was. And I should say, last year, I think the third highest reason was for maintaining profitability was de-equitizing partners. That wasn't as high this year, but the reduced partner compensation. And that's something, again, I'll reference an article we just had the other week. I'm losing track now of the time as I'm putting together stuff. But Gina and Zach, and just to get Lynn to know too, one of the things we're trying to do is do more of these sort of trends pieces. They really kind of drill down what's going on, and drill down from a level of what's happening in Pennsylvania, but also trying to match it up with what's happening nationally. So you guys have a reason to, you know, sort of a basic comparison to see what's going on in your own market and nationally. And one of the things we're hearing about is a lot of firms are really starting to, there's a little bit of momentum gaining on sort of reconfiguring the compensation models. And it's going to be interesting how that shakes things out, and whether or not, I mean, I'll be really anxious to see, you know, it used to be traditionally before the recession, you know, early January, you'd see all the partner movement. You know, you'd see the people who got their payout at the end of the year and who was happy, who wasn't happy, and people start moving. It hasn't happened the last couple of years. But if firms are really seriously recalculating how they're doing this compensation, and if origination is not the be-all and end-all that it has been in past years, given some of the personalities, some of the people behind these books of business, it'd be interesting to see if there isn't more movement. So I found that interesting, and I'm wondering if that's part of the evidence that we're, you know, based on our article and talking to people, if that's part of the reason why people are saying this, is because they're being forced to do it, and they're finding it provides an advantage in terms of maintaining their profitability. But as you can see, it was the third most cited reason, and it was 18.5% of our respondents cited that as a reason, and that was up sharply from last year. It was only 11.5%. Other reasons that were noted, though, were layoffs and de-equitization. You know, 14.8% said they laid off support staff, and the same number, 14.8%, said they reduced the number of equity partners. Now that's down, though, from last year when it was almost 27%. Again, and I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse a little bit, but it's just something we hear a lot. We hear a lot, and you figure at some point, I mean, you can always be suspicious of consultants. I think it's fair enough to say that, you know, sometimes there's a lot of, you know, sort of business speak that I don't know if it translates into the real world, but it's something that's universal while talking about how Pennsylvania firms really need to address underperforming partners, and it's a real drag. And that's something that, you know, based on the survey results we get, the Pennsylvania firms still aren't doing it. And I'm not necessarily advocating they should, but I'm just saying that's what a lot of people think they should be done. Interesting, though, is that, you know, in the past we've seen, in terms of other things like reducing entry-level hiring, cutting marketing costs, those are things that were often cited as reasons to keep down profitability. And this year they were both down. They were both cited by 19.2% Last year, they were cited, both of those were cited by nearly 20% of respondents said, hey, look, that's what we did to maintain profitability. And as you can see this year, only 11% said that they were reducing entry-level hiring, and only 7.4% said they were cutting marketing costs. Now, that could be because they already gutted your marketing budgets before the year started, so there was nothing to cut.